Hi, everybody. Susan Storm here, and I'm sorry we're a few minutes late. I was having some technical issues getting my slides uploaded for today's talk. Today, we're going to be talking about ENTJs, particularly fictional ENTJs, not ENFJs. ENTJs you might see in movies, ENTJs you might see in television shows. Obviously, when it comes to TV and movies, it's hard to type people. I can't sit across from any of these characters and actually conduct a profiling session, but you can watch the shows, you can watch the movies and get an idea of how the type might show up. You can see common patterns in these characters that are signs that they might be ENTJ personality types. They have very, very clear signs that they could be this particular type. So I think it's going to be a fun learning experience. And if you are with us right now, you can also join in and ask questions. We'd love for this to be an interactive experience where you feel like you are part of this. And if there's anything you don't understand, you feel like you can just jump right in and ask. You don't have to wait till the end of the stream to ask a question. Ask one anytime you feel like it. Thank you, George and Yukesha. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. And let me give Denzel a chance to introduce himself.
Yeah, so my name is Denzel Mensa. I'm an ENFJ 911, social sexual in the Enneagram system. I'm also a life personal development and relationship coach, YouTuber underneath the name Denzel Mensa. And yeah, I really love personality psychology. I really like anything having to do with like interpersonal dynamics. I'm all about it. I really also enjoy exploring philosophy, anything having to do with spirituality, and just concepts in general. So yeah, it's been fun not only getting to know Susan as a friend, but also doing these streams with her because again, personality psychology is my passion. And I really also I'm looking forward to this series as well because I type a lot of fictional characters. I know that a lot of people say like, oh well, you can't really like type fictional characters. I get that they're not real, but a lot of them are based off of real people. And on top of that, like, if you're a really good writer, then you have consistency with how the characters are going to show up. Like, there's just certain characters that like, okay, I'm not going to have Charlie Brown say this because Charlie Brown is not that type of person. So instead, I'm going to have Linus say this. And there's like some sort of consistency there. And with that consistency, you can pattern. And with the patterning, you're able to see, okay, then these are the functions that are most likely showing up. So all of these that we're going to put here is just our opinion and our reasoning behind it. If you respectfully disagree, then yeah, sure, go ahead and state it or ask questions. But yeah, I think that today, starting it off with ENTJ, we have like a lot of good ones coming up.
Awesome. Thank you, Denzel. I've had a lot of fun working with him on these series as well. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to pull up my slides because we are going to give a brief overview of the ENTJ personality type. This is a diagram of their cognitive functions. If you've watched our other streams, you know about the cognitive functions. If you don't know about the cognitive functions, that's okay. You don't have to be able to enjoy this stream. This shows you their hierarchy of functions. So they are dominantly extroverted thinking types. Extroverted thinking types are concerned with logically organizing the external world so that they can achieve goals and objectives. They have a very structured, pragmatic approach to life. They're constantly keeping an eye on things like time, resources, in order to strategically get things done in the most effective way. ENTJs are also intuitives. They use a process called introverted intuition, which gives them an ability to future forecast, to spot ripple effects and behind the scenes meanings and patterns. This also helps them with their strategy ability because they can often sense how things are going to unfold over time and then work backwards in order to create the perfect plan or the perfect strategy. ENTJs also use a process called extroverted sensing. Yes, they're intuitives, but they also have sensing as their third function. This gives them a very action-oriented approach to life. They are not people to just sit on their heels and deliberate for a long time. They can jump into action very, very quickly, and that it helps them, this extroverted sensing tertiary function can help them be very pragmatic, very detail-oriented and fast-acting when they need to be. Their inferior function is introverted feeling. Now, introverted feeling, saying it's inferior can make it sound like, they just have no feelings. It's absolutely not true. ENTJs do have feelings, and they usually have very strong feelings. While on the outside, they can appear very logical, direct, straightforward, and even kind of brusque, thanks to their strong thinking side. They do have an inner core of introverted feeling that's actually more sensitive and more deep and more passionate about specific causes and things that are personal to them. A quote from Linda Behrens about this type. Linda Behrens is a psychologist who does certification programs for people learning about type. She says, for strategist mobilizers, that's her term for ENTJs, life is a process of leading, being the kind of leaders who maximize results by utilizing and developing the talents of those they lead. They enjoy forging partnerships to accomplish complex projects and strategically coordinate it all. They mobilize all resources, people as well as financial and institutional, to achieve what they envision. So you're going to see these qualities in the characters that we explore today. You're going to see that they are very strategic. You're going to see that they're very good at organizing people, at getting things done, at mobilizing resources. They're good at leading. Now, some people misinterpret ENTJs. I'm going to tell you, this stream isn't going to be 10 ENTJ villains. They're not all bad guys, much to the chagrin of people who type ENTJs, because they always make the worst possible villains, the ENTJs. But they can seem very brusque and critical. So here's another quote from Behrens. She says, others sometimes see them, ENTJs, as brusque and critical and can miss the ways they show how much they care. Caring is shown less through gestures of kindness and affection than through personal action, doing things for people they care about and persistently pursuing goals and advice based on strategic thinking. So an ENTJ is less likely to tell you all these feel-good affirmations, and they are more likely to do something to actually help you achieve your goal, or to teach you something that can help you achieve your objectives in life. They're more likely to show it through actions than words. And quickly, this is our last informational slide. We're going to look at their interaction style. ENTJs have a in-charge interaction style. And one of the ways you can identify an ENTJ is through the way that they interact with other people. They have very direct eye contact. They have a direct way of speaking. They tend to not be too personal right away. They're not going to open up to you about their life and tell you all their problems right away. They explain their objectives clearly. They're going to jump right to the point. ENTJs do not like people who ramble. And that brings us to our next point, which is that they present their main points, but not excessive details. If you're talking to an ENTJ, please get to the point, and get to the point as quickly as you can. If you are going in roundabout and filling it in with this big, long story, you're going to get on their last nerve. They do tend to seem businesslike. Like, what's the goal? What's the plan? What's the job? What's the objective? And if you are just kind of dilly-dallying, you will bother them. Now, at home versus at work is a little different, but even at home, they tend to have a very, they're always focused on the goal. Like, what is the goal of this moment? They're efficient, they're straightforward. All right, so there's kind of a brief overview of the ENTJ. Now we can jump into the fictional characters, but before we do that, I just want to ask Denzel if he has anything he wants to add really quickly to that. And then as we go, we'll be talking more about ENTJs.
I honestly don't have anything to add on to what you just said. I think that you summarized it all great.
Thank you. And let me know if I'm talking too fast. Sometimes when I'm going over things, I can get a little speedy. Oh, wait, there was one more. So ENTJs aren't just about getting things done. I literally worked on these slides up until 2:29 p.m., which is a few minutes ago, because the day was a disaster and everything was just crazy. So I had to do this last minute. ENTJs notice powerful insights into what is likely to happen. They spot ripple effects, implications, and potentials, and they often just know things about people and situations. Because ENTJs have introverted intuition, they can often have those aha moments and epiphanies that are very common for NJ types. Many times, an entire solution can show up to them out of the blue, and they're able to use that to advance their goals. They're very good at reading behind the scenes and spotting patterns. All right, so this is my first fictional ENTJ. You may or may not know him. His name is, well, they just call him Five in the show The Umbrella Academy that is on Netflix. Let's talk about Five. Didn't get time to do this particular slide for all of them. Number 5 is one of 7 children adopted by Sir Reginald Hargreaves, a genius scientist who has the goal of training them to save the world. 5 possesses the ability to time travel and ends up trapped in the future as an old boy, where he discovers that the world is in ruins. He eventually returns to the Umbrella Academy years later with a message that the world is due to end in 8 days. All right, so I have clips to make this a little bit more fun. I wasn't able to get them for each of the characters, but we have them for some of them. So give me a minute. I'm going to go ahead and remove the slides and bring up a clip of 5 in action. And then me and Denzel will explain to you how he's showing some typical ENTJ preferences. So let me, go back to the beginning here. And also, Denzel, can you just let me know, because it's the first time I'm streaming a video clip through this program. Can you just give me a thumbs up if the audio is streaming properly? Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got something, Dolores. It's tenuous, but promising.
Who are you talking to? What is all this?
It's a probability map
Probability of what?
of whose death could save the world. I've narrowed it down to 4.
Are you saying one of these 4 people causes the apocalypse?
No, I'm saying that their death might prevent it.
Oh. I'm not following.
Time is fickle, Luther. The slightest alteration in events can lead to massively different outcomes in the time continuum. The butterfly effect. So all I have to do is find the people with the greatest probability of impacting the timeline, whoever they may be, and kill them.
Milton Green. So who's he, a terrorist or something?
I believe he is a gardener.
You can't be serious. Wait, this is madness, 5. Yeah. Where'd you get that?
Dad's room. I think he used it to shoot a rhinoceros. It's similar to the model I used at work. Nice shoulder fit and highly reliable.
But you can't. This guy, Milton, is just an innocent man.
It's basic math. His death could potentially save the lives of billions. If I did nothing, he'd be dead in 4 days anyway. The apocalypse won't spare anyone.
We don't do this kind of thing.
We are not doing anything. I am.
I can't let you go and kill innocent people, 5, no matter how many lives you'll save.
Well, good luck stopping me.
All right, so let me see if I can remove the video thing now. All right, so here is, I think, an amazing example of an ENTJ in action. Now, you may or may not agree with 5's methodology, all right? He did all this math. He looked at the numbers, and he's like, okay, the world's going to end in, I think he said 5 days, unless I kill these 4 people. He sees the big picture, and that's something that ENTJs are really good at, is seeing the big picture, looking at numbers and narrowing down probabilities in order to figure out what is going to be the most effective and expedient course of action. So for him, it's not about the feelings involved. Yes, he wants to save the world. That's ultimately his goal. But he realizes he's going to have to play a little dirty in order to do it. By example, doing away with this gardener. Now, the other guy, I think, is possibly an ISFJ. I'm not really sure. People say ISTJ. I don't know. But 5, he's got the math down. He's got the numbers right. He knows what he has to do to save the world, and he's just going to go and do it. And I think he exemplifies some of the things that ENTJs are wonderful at. They're great at narrowing down options and coming up with a very precise strategy. They're great at juggling numbers and metrics in order to find the most effective plan. They're also good at objectifying their feelings and pushing them down in order to get a job done, in order to be the bad guy. He says to Luther, he says, you're not going to do this. I am. And that's one thing you'll often find with ENTJs is they will do the hard work. A lot of people think of ENTJs as these like slave driver workhorses who are like, yeah, everyone else needs to do my jobs for me. But he actually is willing to do it himself, and he puts himself through harder tasks than he gives to other people. Now, Suzanne commented, she said, I think the other characteristic typical of ENTJs is his level of focus and concentration, continuing to work on the problem and talking to the other guy over his shoulder. Yes, absolutely. Now, one of the ways you can tell a difference between an ENTJ and an INTJ is ENTJs are much better at this multitasking process of being able to juggle these different external forces. INTJs tend to need the external world to quiet down so that they can focus much more. And for an INTJ, they're going to need to go really deep into their intuition and reflect and consider and really shut out external stimulation as much as possible to do their best thinking, whereas an ENTJ can very much multitask more easily. So I want to know, Denzel, what do you think? Or do you have any thoughts on how he represents ENTJ?
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful small clip to just demonstrate like how, first off, he was able to see, okay, like the SE tertiary is like, okay, this is what's going on right now. This is the accuracy of what's actually happening right now. So from knowing what's going on right now, we can predict NI auxiliary, like what's going to happen, and not only what's going to happen, like where the trajectory of everything is going to be, because that's the combination, like the SE, NI, like SE is like, okay, what's happening right now? And then the NI is like, okay, what does it mean? And then once you figure out what it means, then you can figure out the trajectory for it. So he was able to pin down like, okay, this is what's probably what's going on. This is what's going to happen. Then the TE is like, so this is what we're going to do about it and how we're going to do it. And then, yeah, the FI is lower, and it's like, I feel like he really did know, like, yo, this is not ethical. This is not whatever. But, and this is something that I have to do, because at the end of the day, we're looking at the bigger picture here. It's going to cause more harm if we don't carry out this task than if, we were to just let it be. And on top of that, I think that, and this is something I personally like relate to really strongly as a fellow ENJ, like I loved when he said, like, no, you're not doing this. We're not doing this. Like, he took responsibility for the action that he was about to carry out, because he knows that, okay, not everybody is going to agree with my methods. Not everybody's going to see the vision that I have. Not everyone's going to be able to, understand this. So I'm just going to move about it in the way that I need to. And I feel like this is a common characteristic in many ENTJ characters that we see on, like, some of them that we're going to be mentioning, but there's just a lot of them. And I think that's also why sometimes ENTJs can like move silently, like without telling people their plan, because if they tell them their plan, then it's like they're going to have a whole bunch of people like, oh, but that's not right, or this is that, and they won't see the vision. And sometimes, yeah, maybe it is a nefarious type of plan, but in their mind, they think that they're doing the right thing, which we're going to see with some of the other characters that we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I think that was a great example of like how an ENTJ's mind can often work.
Thank you, Denzel. Yeah, absolutely. TJ types, or you said ENJs, they aren't going to ask other people to do things they wouldn't do themselves. And if they know, hey, this is going to create an emotional dilemma for another person, I'll just handle it myself, because that's just going to create inefficiency. But it's also him doing this and not having his siblings part of it is one of the ways that ENTJs show they care. He's like, I'll be the bad guy so that you don't have to be. Because ultimately, he's not a bad guy. In 5 days, the whole world's going to end and everyone's going to die. You have to make tough choices sometimes, and this was a tough choice that had to be made. He is a good guy, but he's going to carry the weight of that on his shoulder, and he's not going to give that to everyone else. They can all look at him and go, what a mean person, what a bad person, but really he's saving them from having to deal with guilt. And that's one of the ways that he's showing he cares.
Yeah, and I think another good way to depict ENTJ too is that, just like you said, that FI inferior doesn't mean that they are just simply emotionless and they have no morals or values, but it is easier for them to put it aside to do what needs to get done. So maybe if it was like an FI dominant, for example, it's like, oh, my feelings, I'm just so torn by these values, whatever it might be. And that's totally fair. But for him, he's like, dang, that really does hurt. But I see, like, it's going to hurt me even more if I don't do what's necessary to get done. And so, and neither one is bad. The FI Dom is not better than the TE Dom. The TE Dom is not better than the FI Dom. It's just different, different delegations, I guess, for different tasks.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I love that in this particular stream, we're showing some really amazing ENTJ characters, and we're going to look at some of the ways that they help, some of their values. Some of them are murky characters, but there's no good or bad personality types. They're just good or bad people. So let's look. There's a comment here from Kibo. He says the cold extroverted thinking logic combined with big picture introverted intuition thinking is why ENTJs make great anti-heroes and villains. The end justifies the means. And absolutely, they can make great anti-heroes and villains. If you're looking at like an unhealthy ENTJ, they will definitely take the ends justifies the means approach to things. Like in the end, we all know that this is what's best for humanity. So if we have to do some morally ambiguous things on the way, then oh well, that's the sacrifice we have to make in order to achieve this objective that's better for everyone. And you will often find if you come into contact with unhealthy ENTJs, that they can be kind of insensitive people for the sake of just getting things done. And then someone asked, let's see, PA asked, do those feelings / the guilt catch up later? And I would say many times yes. ENTJs are not robots. They do have feelings. And in those quieter moments of their lives when their introverted feeling is more likely to bubble up, they can have issues with feelings that they've pushed aside in all the action and busyness and strategizing. Those can catch up to them. Now, they don't always, depends, from person to person. But if an ENTJ is a healthy ENTJ, they are making time for reflection. They are making time to be self-aware. And things that they've done that are morally ambiguous will come up to the surface if they feel that it was actually wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say in response to that too, like, of course, it definitely depends on the situation. It definitely depends on the person. I think that more frequently they kind of resolve those feelings before they carry out the action, because they think it through and they know like it comes up and it's like, this is probably not the most valuable thing, like most what's the word, I guess human. I'm trying to think of the word moral thing to do, but at the end of the day, like they're looking at the bigger picture like so much, and they kind of like make themselves like have peace with it, because that's what they need to do in order to carry out the situation. And then after they see the success of the carrying out the situation, then yeah, it might come up like, dang, it still sucks that I had to do that. But because I actually let go of this, then I was able to succeed in doing whatever I had to do. So like, I think that if you watch a show like Attack on Titan, you see this with a lot of even the non-ENTJ characters. You see this with like a lot of them. Actually, yeah, we're gonna talk. We have a lot of characters that are coming up, and you're gonna see this pattern, like where, man, like, did I do the right thing? No, of course I did the right thing, because if I didn't, then this is the alternative. It was a hard decision, but we had to do what we had to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that a lot of times they'll deal with the moral question. If they're a healthy ENTJ, they will deal with the moral question prior to taking action. A healthy person of any type will consider thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition prior to taking action. Precisely. The unhealthy or average ENTJs may not. And then later on, it may bubble up as like, oh, crap. And that can bubble up with anyone, healthy or unhealthy. But I do believe that with ENTJs, there is if I'm going to have to, in this scenario we just watched, I'm going to have to kill this gardener. That's going to suck. But the math is there. If I don't do it, he's going to die anyway. So I have to do this to save the whole. All right. So let's look at our next character, Lelouch Lamperouge. He's from an anime called Code Geass. Have you seen this, Denzel?
Yeah, you recommended it to me. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he's like one of my absolute favorite anime characters of all time. Oh my goodness, I have way too much text here about him. Basically, he's the 11th prince of the Holy Britannian Empire. He was exiled with his younger sister, and his younger sister was blinded and crippled in an ambush that caused the death of his mother. After being exiled to Japan by his father to cover up their own plans for global conquest, Lelouch changed his name to Lelouch Lamperouge in order to conceal his identity. Originally, he was Lelouch v. Britannia. So he embraced Japan as his true home. However, he was left traumatized after witnessing Britannia's conquest of the country, and he vows to destroy Britannia. After gaining the power of Gyas, the power to compel people, he becomes the vigilante Zero and the leader and founder of the Black Knights, the Japanese resistance to overthrow Britannia and create a better world. So this is someone that, again, many people see him as you're watching the anime, and I don't want to give spoilers here, which is difficult when we're trying to, give clips and things. But, you might think, ooh, this is a really bad guy at times. Or you might think, oh, this is a really good guy. You don't know till the end. But he's very strategic. He can think very quickly on his feet. And he can organize all these people in the moment in very chaotic situations in order to do exactly what needs to be done so that he can overthrow Britannia. And again, some people type him as INTJ because he's not a super chatty person. People think of extroversion as being very chatty and social. With ENTJs, they often do not look super chatty and social. They can be at times, but generally they are more task-focused than talk-focused. For extroversion, when it comes to Myers-Briggs, is more about where you're pouring your energy. Are you pouring your energy into the external world, or are you pouring your energy inward? An INTJ, again, needs to pull away from external activity in order to get their best insights. Yes, they can engage with the outer world, but managing multiple moving parts all at once with finesse is going to be harder for an INTJ than coming up with a really complex, intricate, amazing strategy in the quiet of their own room, mapping it out, coming up with it, and giving it to others to do. So one of the ways that Lelouch demonstrates ENTJ qualities, and I don't necessarily have the best clip it was really hard. I was trying to scramble together all these clips. But if you watch the series, you will see him in the midst of battle delegating to multiple different factions and regions and warriors, telling them exactly what to do in order to defeat his enemies. But he's also playing these different roles in order to trick people. And this is something ENTJs can manage many different strategies at one time. And it's something that in action, and it's something that really sets them apart. So we're going to now see a clip of Lelouch from Code Geass. Let's see here.
Oh, thank heaven I'm saved.
Oh, let me just set up the scene a little bit. In the beginning of the series, he skips out of school sometimes in order to, I think it's been so long since I've seen this. It's in order to win chess matches for money.
Are things going well at school?
What have we here? Schoolboys?
Well, look at this, a nobleman.
I envy you kids today. You have so much time on your hands. Time for regrets. What's your name?
Lelouch. Lamperouge.
Whoa, now wait a minute. You can't win this one. It's impossible, right?
Rivel?
Huh?
When do you think we would have to leave in order to make our next class?
20 minutes if we bust our hump.
Then be sure that you drive safely on the way back.
Huh?
I'll need 9 minutes. And by the way, about yesterday?
Understood, sir. We'll discuss it later.
9 minutes? You only have 20 seconds per move.
Enough time.
You start with the king.
I love playing against the nobility. When they lose, they always pay out of pride. By the way, 8 minutes, 32 seconds is a new record.
He also didn't have much time to move either. And as opponents go, the nobles are tepid. They're just overprivileged parasites, that's all.
Okay, so... All right, so it is a stereotype that NTJs are good at chess. but it's a stereotype for a reason. ENTJs tend to approach life like a chess game. Every move is intentional. Everything is part of a bigger end game. And this is just one example of this coming out. He not only strategized how he would win the game from a game standpoint, but also how the other player would play. And he's like, this is some wealthy guy who's used to having all the time he wants. Me having to do this in 9 minutes puts him in a time crunch as well. And he was able to see how all this would happen at once, and then also help his friend make sure that he was able to get back to class at the same time, and in a very calm, confident way. And throughout the entire series, if you're someone who watches that or likes that show or is thinking of watching it, you will see him make all these moves that other people cannot understand, but it's all part of a larger strategy. And that's one thing you'll notice a lot with ENTJ characters is people are constantly wondering, why in the world are they doing that? Why are they acting this way? And it's not till the end that you realize, oh, now it's all coming together and they've achieved this really complicated goal that many other people couldn't do. So Denzel, any thoughts on that you want to add?
Yeah, I think that he's a really great example of an ENTJ for sure. And I love how you also contrasted that with the INTJ. There's a lot of characters online that are typed as INTJ, but are actually ENTJ. And there's a lot of people who are typed as INTJ or self-typed as INTJ, but they're really ENTJ. It's a lot because of those stereotypes. But as you watch, like one of the biggest differences between an ENTJ and an INTJ is just like, again, like everything that Susan said, but also the action-oriented nature and also the delegation, like, you know, being able to like not control, but leading the people around them in a way, acting quickly. Even in this scene, you still see like how like he was like, hey, how much time before like we're pretty much like late for class? You know what? Okay, you make it back, just like, you know, in the last clip, because he's like thinking to himself, like, I don't want my seeming irresponsibility to get you in trouble. So you can go back. I'm going to go ahead and handle this. And yeah, just like you said, like, just like Susan said, like a lot of times ENTJs, they'll do things in a way where you don't know why they're doing it. You don't know what coincidentally like chess pieces that they're setting up and why are you moving this in this way? But then it makes sense later after everything's like come together. It's like, oh shoot, like you were thinking this far ahead and you predicted that I was probably going to do this, and that, and that's why you made this move. And I also think that with Lelouch's background, you can see again like the FI inferior, like FI inferior tends to really love going for the underdog. I think that's a big thing for ENTJs. And so it's like when we look at the ENTJs and we just only see villain, it's like that's a very two-dimensional view, because a lot of times they're actually looking at the people that we are all looking over. Like we're not really paying attention to them. So it's like, wow, well, I'm going to advocate for them. And then they might see these people as like, oh, they're not strong enough to be able to do what's necessary. So then they become the bad guy in order to protect those people. So then from their vantage point, they're the hero to the people that really need help, but they might seem like a villain to the other people. And I think that that's, again, like beautifully stated.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that, because I think there's a lot of like bias in the type community, and I've definitely seen lots of like particularly feeling types just like bash on thinking types, and thinking types definitely bash on feeling types sometimes as well. So it goes both ways. But as being very mean-hearted people, and man, why can't everyone be nice like we are? We're just so nice, these feeling types. But really, thinking types are kind people. They are, you know, just as anyone else can be. It's just the way that they're going to do it isn't going to look warm and fuzzy like it does with certain other types. So we have a comment here from PA. They say, this might just be a tendency in anime, guys, but I've noticed a certain elegance and sophisticated air about ENTJs. Are there correlations to the functions? I would say some. Anime people do tend to be just more elegant. I wish I was an anime person in some ways, but, you know, I do think ENTJs, they are extroverts. They are conscious of the world around them. They have extroverted sensing as their third function. These aren't types that are just like off in their heads, tripping over everything, generally speaking. they tend to be aware of where they are in space. They tend to be aware of what they want in their environment. So when they come into a room, they know what they want, they know where they are, they know what's around them, and they know how to get it, typically. And so there is a certain amount of elegance and confidence in the way that many of them move. Does this mean that ENTJs don't experience social anxiety or things like that? Absolutely not. Like, you can have an ENTJ who's clumsy one day, or an ENTJ who's shy and not graceful. But in general, because of their because they have extroverted sensing higher in their stack, and so because of that, they are engaged in their environment, aware of their environment, and because they have extroverted thinking, which is very goal-oriented and directive and straightforward, it's like they walk into a room and you get this feeling that, like, oh, these people are here with a plan, and there's a certain amount of a coolness factor to that, I suppose. What do you think, Denzel?
Yeah, so I think that SE tertiary in itself is very image oriented. And so it's aware of how other people are usually perceiving them, and they can't help that they're aware of that. And so then they also know how to present themselves in a fashion that will garner this type of attention they might want. And that could then be like, okay, like if I present myself in this sophisticated way or this elegant type of way, then these are the this is how I'm going to be perceived. I also think, especially having TE as a dominant function, and then having NI, you know, I think I'm saying this in a neutral way, not in like a mean way or anything, but I think that a lot of ENTJs, they're so confident and can feel not necessarily like they're better than other people, but they're just so confident in themselves, and they can notice how other people are not usually as confident, and they're like, oh, okay. And no, just being aware of that in general allows them to move even more confidently. And so then they know that, like, in being able to hold themselves in that manner, then it'll again like garner some sort of like attention. Like, people are going to be more likely to take them seriously. And it's just hard to, I guess, not move with that type of elegance when you are aware that you have this level of intelligence and this level of foresight and this level of being able to get done what you are called to get done. But you also need to, like, sometimes, especially as an ENJ, you don't have the receipts just yet, so you kind of have to show the sizzle of the steak before people are able to eat it, if that makes sense. Like, you have to look the part so that people can actually give you the opportunity to be able to prove that you're about what you're showing. And I think that a lot of times that's what ENTJs are pretty much doing.
I agree with you, Denzel. And then we have another comment from Heather. She says, I consciously think about these very things, what we've been talking about, when I'm considering how I'm going to show up in a group. I do it 100% so I can have influence. Yeah, ENTJs, they know what they need to do to get things done. And they know that image matters. Like, as much as we'd like to think it doesn't, it does, you know? And, you know, you're better able to have people take you seriously and get your objectives met if people look at you and go, wow, that's a person who looks like they've got it together. Yeah. So absolutely. So our next character is Thomas Shelby from the Netflix series Peaky Blinders. Now, he is not really, he's a mixture of villain and hero. And if you've watched the show, you know what I mean. He served in World War I with the rank of sergeant major and received medals for gallantry, which he later threw away in a canal after returning from the war. His experiences in World War I left him disillusioned and troubled with ongoing nightmares. He has very severe PTSD. Eventually, he becomes determined to move his family up in the world so that the powers who had always mistreated them could no longer touch them. So this is somebody who also, Denzel was explaining how ENTJs often have a heart for the underdogs. He is someone who does. He does these morally murky things. He's a villain. I mean, not a villain. He's a gangster, you know, in the show. So there are things that he does that are very violent and very dangerous and, you know, not so great. But he's not heartless. And we're going to see an example of that in our next clip. So let me go ahead and get that ready. This clip does have a little bit of profanity in it, so I'm just warning anyone who might not like that. Oh, and he's in to set this up. He is confronting a corrupt convent orphanage, like the leader of a corrupt convent orphanage.
Mr. Shelby, your own sins are legend.
Our sins. Our sins against the beating of children with bricks and houses. Our sins. Our sins. Against the black child who hanged herself for fear of your temper.
I do not see how...
And put them on. Put them on your face. Or it'll be your eyes that are broken. Please don't imagine that I won't use this minute to do it. Or that I am afraid of your prayers or your crosses.
You see the world broken. Like those beaten children will.
Now look at me. Look at me. Look at me! Funding withdrawn.
Okay, so this is an example of you get an ENTJ angry over something that their introverted feeling is invested in, you will really regret doing it. Even though ENTJs are these tough, can do, get things done people, they have very dear causes to their heart. In fact, like I've mentioned this before, but several ENTJs I personally know make exorbitant amounts of money, but they also give huge amounts of money to charity and organizations that align with their specific causes. And in this case, Thomas Shelby, yes, he's a gangster. Like, he's not a nice guy, but he also has a sense of right and wrong. And this nun in this particular scenario was mistreating orphans, and he was not having any of that. And so he withdrew resources, and he ended up taking those children and putting them in his own other orphanage that he had under that he was running. And so it's just an example of how, yes, we like to paint ENTJs as these kind of rough, uncaring, insensitive jerks sometimes, and yes, he seems very rough and insensitive, but in this case, it was warranted. There's another clip we have of him. It's a short one. And it also exemplifies one of the ways that ENTJs show up in the world and take care of other people.
You think we can take on the Chinese and Billy Kimber?
Billy's got a bloody army!
I think, Arthur, that's what I do. I think. So that you don't have to.
All right, so he says, I think so that you don't have to. Arthur, the other character, is an ESFP. He's very flies by the seat of his pants. He's very action oriented, jumps right into things, very much lives on impulse. I also like Arthur in my own way. I love all these characters on the show. But Tommy is someone who's always got a strategy. Now, a lot of people think that Thomas Shelby is an INTJ. Why? Because he's quiet. He's a very quiet person. And again, you're going to run into this a lot where people think ENTJs are INTJs because they're quiet. But if you watch Peaky Blinders, one of the things you'll immediately notice is that Tommy is running so many strategies at once, and he's got his hand in everything. He's never sitting still and just pondering the nature of the universe. INTJs, they're more abstract in their focus. INTJs are introverted, intuitive, dominant types. They have a very abstract, big picture, almost esoteric kind of focus on what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Yes, that's backed up by extroverted thinking, which is very productive and like focused on reaching goals. But ENTJs are more in touch with action and getting things done and making decisions quickly in the moment and being strategic in the moment. This guy is never sitting still. He's always going from place to place to place to place and managing like a dozen different projects at one time. And he does it quickly. And in various scenes in the series, you'll see him where he has to be alone and just be alone with his thoughts. And he absolutely hates it. Like, absolutely hates it. Now, part of that is because he has PTSD. But another part of it is that he just wants to be moving forward on his tasks. So the extroversion of ENTJs is an extroverted focus on tasks and projects in the external world, more than it is on going to the party and having a great conversation. It's about what can I get done out there. And have a comment from PA says, the way I differentiate between INTJ and ENTJ is the first has a more pondering nature. Yeah, absolutely. INTJs need a lot of time to get into their intuition, to really chart the course. It's actually their interaction style is chart the course, to really dream up their strategy and their plan for a long time before they take action. There's a slower process, but then they've got it all mapped out. Whereas ENTJs tend to strategize on the go more. Any thoughts, Denzel, that you have about this particular character, ENTJs?
Yeah, I think two things that I'll just throw into what you said was, I think another way that, not that an INTJ wouldn't do this, but I feel like they're less likely. Like when I profile INTJs a lot of times, they are capable of running all the systems and like, you know, guiding people and stuff like that. But it's not usually something that they really want to do. They usually kind of like second in command. Whereas like the ENTJs are the ones that are usually like, okay, like I'm the one who like has the people like wrapped around my finger and like I got this group of people doing this, I got this group of people doing that. And also in that same light, the same way that he was like, no, I think so that you don't have to. I feel like that's again like very like EJ versus like IJ in a way, like because it's again like so focused on the people management, you know, like I think like Personality Hacker, they break all of the types up into like, you know, EJ versus IP versus EP versus IJ. And for the EJ types, they go by the thing like management, like so managing like projects, managing people, you know, etc. And I feel like that's like just a very like management type of thing, like, you know, I think so that you don't have to, like, just leave everything up to me and just listen to me telling you kind of like what to do in a way. And that's again like going back to the whole kind of like, no, I'm gonna do it, you don't have to do it kind of thing. Yeah, Jamila just put it in there. It's called I don't think it's the interaction styles. That's Linda Behrens. Linda Behrens has the interaction styles. Personality Hacker has the firm model. That one's I can't go through all of it right now, but M stands for management, I stands for invulnerability. I'm trying to remember what the other ones are on the spot, but I'm trying to go back to what I was going to say. The last thing that I was also going to say was that the NI that was shown. So the way that he pretty much like he broke the glasses, so one could say like, you know, that was like SE, like, look, let me show you a tangible thing and then I'm going to make it something bigger than what it is. So like when he broke rightness, thanks Trey. So when he broke the glasses, then people could look at that like, what are you doing? Like, and then he's like, try to look through this. And then he pretty much made that moment, that tangible moment, a parallel or a parable of some sort. Like you see like how it's hard to like look through this. Like you're looking at the world in this way. That's what you're going to be doing to the children. And NI is often like, you know, perspective shifting kind of thing. It's using symbols and everything like that. And I feel like he was able to use that symbol of the broken glasses and, you know, breaking them and then putting it back on her face and everything and telling her to look at him as a way to be able to exemplify like, this is what you're going to actually be doing to them. And I think that's, again, like a really great example of like how an ENTJ can often think and portray their thoughts.
Thank you, Denzel. You have really good points there. And I was going to say something else and now I forgot what it was. All right. So let me go ahead and pull up our next character here. I don't have these descriptions of each character for each one because I had to stop because I ran out of time and I had to be on the stream. So Erwin Smith, we have another anime character here. If you watch Attack on Titan, Erwin Smith was one of my absolute favorite ENTJ heroes. I just feel like I love seeing an ENTJ at their best, leading people with vision, with integrity, with commanding confidence, and with intelligence. He has all the amazing qualities of an amazing ENTJ. He is the 13th commander of the Survey Corps. During Erwin's career, he developed a long-distance enemy scouting formation. This is someone who, throughout this series, you see that he has an incredible desire to understand why things are the way that they are. And the clip isn't going to show that because I just couldn't find the clips in the time I had. But he wants to understand the nature of things. And that's that NJ big picture. Why are we here? Why are we understand? What is the meaning of everything that's happening to me? And Erwin has this huge driving curiosity to understand that. And at this particular point in the clip, now if you have not seen Attack on Titan, you will probably get a spoiler from this clip. So I want to spoiler alert. If you can mute this section if you want to. In this particular point, he realizes he is not going to get the answers that he wants and that he just has to fight. But he becomes such a hero, driving his people to do the right thing. And I think this is, again, an example of how ENTJs can make really tough decisions that other types might crumble under. I think every type can make tough decisions, don't get me wrong. This is just one of the ways that ENTJs can do it. They can make these tough decisions and objectify their feelings and really drive to accomplish their tasks and have integrity while caring for the people that they are leading. Even if in this story with Tommy Shelby, it's like, I'm thinking so you don't have to. I'm doing this. My thinking is a service to you. In the case of Erwin Smith, it's like of course he's struggling with feelings of despair and, grief probably in this particular scene. But he's pushing those feelings down because he has a bigger goal. We'll go ahead and watch the clip with him in it. Also, this is in subtitles, so hopefully everyone can see those okay.
そうだ。
どうせ死ぬなら最後に戦って死ねということですか。
そうだ。
いや、どうせ死ぬならどうやって死のうと命令に背いて死のうと意味なんかないですよね。
全くその通りだ。全くもって無意味だ。どんなに夢や希望を持っていても幸福な人生を送ることができたとしても岩で体を砕かれても同じだ。人はいずれ死ぬ。ならば人生には意味がないのか。そもそも生まれてきたことに意味はなかったのか。死んだ仲間もそうなのか。あの兵士たちも無意味だったのか。いや違う。あの兵士たちに意味を与えるのは我々だ。あの勇敢な死者を、哀れな死者を思うことができるのは聖者である我々だ。我々はここで死に次の聖者に意味を託す。それこそ唯一この残酷な世界に抗う術なのだ。兵士を怒れ、兵士を叫べ、兵士を戦え。
Oh my gosh, so amazing. I love him so much. All right, one of my kids is knocking on the door here real quick. Okay, Daniel's taking care of it. So again, he even in this really chaotic and troubling situation, he knows how to bring these people together and give them a sense of meaning and purpose in what they're doing. At first you're like, gosh, he's being really tough. Like, he's saying there's no meaning to any of this. Like, why were we even born? Right? He's got that bluntness that ENTJs are famous for. He is going to be straightforward and tell them the truth. But in the end, his intuition comes into play, and also his feeling side. It's like, we are doing this big picture so that we can inspire the people who come after us. And that's the meaning of what we're doing. And he gets the people really motivated. Like, yes, we're going to go out there and we're probably going to die. But we know that it's in pursuit of a bigger purpose. And we know we're doing it for the right reasons. And Denzel, do you have any thoughts on that?
I love Irvin so freaking much. Like, I think he's an absolutely incredible example of an ENTJ who has all of their functions integrated, including like the FI is there, but he's still using the TE like very strongly. The NI is there, but then also still using the SE. Like, he doesn't just give the commands like from afar, but he's in it. Like, he was the first one to take lead. Like, if you watch it again, it's not, I mean, you just saw the thing. Like, when he was planning it, he said, this is not going to work unless if I lead it. And he put his life on the line for the bigger picture, for the cause. And that's just, he's amazing. Like, and he, throughout the show, time and time and time again, like, he had the visions, he had the thoughts, he was able to see, like, okay, wait a minute. Like, he asked the questions, what's really going on over here? Like, I see SE, like, this is what's happening right in front of me. Someone could probably look at it like, oh, clearly the Titan is eating this and boom, boom. But he's like, no, like, what's the deeper meaning behind this? And then what does this mean? What's the trajectory for it? And then what can we do about that? And so he really thought deeply in that way. He made so many moves that people once again disagreed with at times. Like, but he knew that he had to do it because it was what was necessary, and he lived by it himself. Like, and there were just certain things too that like he believed that again, like, people didn't agree with. Like, he believed that certain soldiers were more valuable than others, and to a lot of like higher FI users, like, that's wrong. But and he understood that, like, no, I get why that's like wrong to think, but at the end of the day, that's just the truth. And that's why, like, we have to move in these ways. And eventually it got to a point where, like, okay, like, this is what we got to do. So anyway, there's a lot to that show if you haven't watched it. Irvin is an amazing example of an ENTJ who definitely leads with the strong TE, definitely has the NI there as well, but he also has the SE. He's getting into action, and the FI is integrated into the TE to make sure, like, everything that he does, it's done with passion, it's in alignment. And even when they're kind of like, at a crossroads, he makes peace with it. He was the character that I was thinking of earlier when I was saying, like, yeah, no, they usually like reconcile that before they take the action. If it's like really, like, if it's a really healthy person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like hard for me to talk after watching that scene because it almost makes me emotional. Like, and I love all the Irwin love in the comments. Like, it just makes me smile so much because, like, he's so cool and he's so amazing. And, like, seriously, my eyes are tearing up and I don't even know why. But anyway, watch Attack on Titan if you want a great example of ENTJ. Also ESFP, Aaron Yeager, also ESFP, really cool. I love him too. People love to hate him, but I love him. So let's go on to our next character. Beautiful Faith says, let's dig into that introverted feeling. Yeah, I actually get real emotional watching like FI users in movies and TV shows. And yeah, watching them live on camera is maybe not the best. So this one's easier. Harvey Specter from the TV show Suits. He is a very successful strategic lawyer. He doesn't always follow the rules. He thinks outside the box. And he takes this other guy, Mike Ross, under his wing, someone who actually didn't go to school to become a lawyer. And Mike Ross, I cannot stand personally, just saying. But he's got this this guy, it's been like 7 years since I watched this, so I'm really trying to recall this from memory, which my memory isn't great, but he's got this other younger boy that he's trying to train up. And this younger boy is probably, I want to say he's maybe an ENFP, which I love ENFPs, but and he's very morally conflicted about everything all the time. And Harvey Specter is an incredible mentor to him. And we're going to see an example of how ENTJ mentorship can show up in the next clip. Let's go ahead and do that.
Listen, Harvey, about...
I don't give advice.
Okay, please, Sensei. I'm out of my league with this thing.
Listen to me. Don't go to trial.
It's a mock trial. I think the trial part is kind of a prerequisite.
Right. Law is about control, okay? You can only control so much with a jury, judge, witnesses, and another lawyer with an ego complex.
And what if the lawyer doesn't have an ego complex?
Every lawyer has an ego complex. The firm has presented an exercise where there's potential for failure, okay? All I'm saying is try and create a situation where that's not even a possibility. Kobayashi Maru.
Koba what now?
Star Trek. Captain Kirk. What do you think's gonna happen in the real world? You have to be prepared for anything.
Well, in the real world, I won't have to be looking for someone to play my fake witness in my fake trial.
Wait. What do you think? You think witnesses are just gonna jump up and present themselves? Because they're not. And sometimes, when you have one, they disappear or recant. And you know what you do? You deal with it. Mock trial is about figuring out what type of lawyer you want to be, and there's only two types. Winners and losers.
Okay, that sounds great, Harvey, but I haven't prepared. I don't have anyone to play my client or my witness, and apparently I'm going up against someone that I can't trust.
Figure out a way to beat them anyway. Winners don't make excuses when the other side plays the game. You don't have what it takes.
So, okay, it's jumping to a new scene, but there's something that's very common that ENTJs do that Harvey did in that last one. He says you have two choices. You could be a winner or a loser. With TJs, particularly ETJs, everything can be boiled down into a binary choice. Yes, no, winner, loser. And that's one thing that you'll see with ENTJs. It's like figure out the rules of the game, then figure out how to move those rules around and to work with the game and in order to win, no matter what the extraneous world throws at you. And you can see that extroverted sensing that ENTJs have in that last scene as well. It's, you know, it's like your environment's always going to change and you have to be able to move with that and not let it stop you in the middle of everything. Let's go on to this next scene and then we can break down a little bit of this more. Oh, it says stream unavailable. I see someone said stream unavailable. Oh. Is anyone else having trouble seeing this? Let me see if I can pull it.
Dang.
That would be too bad. I wonder if it's us or the whole thing.
No, I feel like it was probably the copyright.
Okay, let me just go ahead and look really quick while I'm...
Yeah, I have it up on my side.
Stream suspended for policy violations. I see that now. Okay, so I'm not really sure what to do next.
Yes. So yeah, I was thinking about that. This
Maybe
is
if I move that.
Right?
It's what?
This is still recording, right?
I'm not sure. It's still showing up as stream unavailable. I wonder if it's just they're just gonna have it canceled.
It's probably still recording on StreamYard.
Yeah, it would be.
Give me a second. Oh, well, now we're back.
Oh, okay. I wonder if it's just... All right, everyone, sorry about that. So we are showing small clips from TV shows and movies, and I think YouTube doesn't like that. I know that other people have done it, and I know that it's not direct, like just use it as an educational example isn't actually violating their policy necessarily, but
sometimes
I don't
know. Yeah, that's why a lot of times on my channel I'm like super hesitant to like use clips and stuff like that. And that's what I was afraid of for this. But the thing is, what I was thinking was like after the stream, anything that gets marked up, you just appeal it. So I just didn't think that they were gonna do it like during the stream.
Same.
So
I guess this was a learning experience, and I wonder if it's like, I wonder if we should try again to show any of the clips or just skip the clips entirely. Is what I'm trying to figure out. Because it stopped everything for like a few minutes. It wasn't real long. I could skip this particular character and see if maybe with the other characters it won't do that. But
well,
let
we
me
should continue to talk about what you were going to say with the last character, and I'll look some stuff up real quick.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so Harvey, Mike Ross, the younger lawyer, keeps coming to Harvey with these kind of, I don't know what to do. Here's maybe a moral dilemma, or here is, something that is just challenging and I can't figure out how to do it. And I think that Mike Ross could be an EFP type. And EFP types have tertiary extroverted thinking, and they often can benefit from being around dominant extroverted thinking types like ENTJs and ESTJs, because they have capability there, but someone who is more natural with extroverted thinking can help them harness that energy a little bit better. In this particular scene I was about to show, Mike Ross is coming to Harvey Specter and basically saying, I'm glad I'm a better person than you are. I don't think I'm maybe cut out. Harvey Specter has fired him. And he's saying, well, that's good. I think I like myself and the kind of person I am a whole lot better than I like who you are. He says that to Harvey. And Harvey says, you know what I see when I look at you is I see a kid who isn't sure what he wants, because you aren't even sure whether you want to be a lawyer because you haven't fully committed. And it's true. What he's telling him is actually true. And one of the things that ENTJs really want with people is figure out what you want and go for it 100%. Don't just figure out what you want and then come up with all these excuses. Actually put 100% of your focus and energy into what you're doing at all times. They cannot stand it when people are like blaming this person and that person and this thing and the other thing and making up these excuses about why they couldn't do one thing or another. They need people to actually take personal responsibility for their own choices. And one way to really get onto an ENTJ's nerves is to not take personal responsibility for things that don't go your way. And in this particular scenario where Mike Ross confronts him and says, well, I like the kind of person I am so much better than I like you, and he's basically acting morally superior, Harvey is saying, no, you just didn't decide and commit to what you wanted to do and to the kind of person you wanted to be. Like, don't blame me and play this moral superiority game. We all know what's really going on here. The next character, we'll just move forward, is Light Yagami from Death Note. Now, Denzel, I'm going to have to give the mic to you on this one because it has been so long since I've seen Death Note. And so I don't feel like I am the best at giving a breakdown of his character. So I'm going to go ahead and let you explain Light Yagami for the viewer.
Yeah, sure. So Death Note is literally one of my top 3 favorite anime of all time. Amazing dynamic between Light and L. And I believe that Light Yagami is an ENTJ. I know a lot of people type him as INTJ. Again, I disagree. In fact, I think that L is an INTJ. I know a lot of people type him as INTP. And I know that's the easy way to type him and everything. He kind of like moves awkwardly, whatever. But if you look at the functions, I also disagree. Just my opinion. But for Light, you see, so Light Yagami is a student at school, and he comes across this notebook called the Death Note. And the Death Note essentially is a journal or a notebook where if like he pretty much reads that if you write down anyone's name and or you have the person's like face in mind, etc., you can even write down how they die, then they will die in that exact way within that exact time frame. So he starts, going like gun crazy with it, and he starts killing off all of the the criminals that he sees on TV, because ultimately in his FI, what he really wants is a world that's rid of evil. you know, and so he's killing the evil people. But then ironically, that then makes him evil, right? But he's seeing it as like, well, no, but this is for a good cause. I don't know why people are trying to figure out who this Kira is, which is his alias that he goes by when he's carrying out these killings. And he doesn't know like why like people are actually trying to like stop him from making the world a better place by killing all of these people. And so he has to go through different like hoops and everything throughout the show to be able to continue to carry out this task. And he's insanely strategic with how he's doing it. It becomes a chess match between him and L, the INTJ character. Like because L is trying to then figure out like, okay, who is this Kira person? And it's just a whole like almost like cat and mouse type of thing. But it's like very interesting to see how that happens. And again, he's one of those people who's like, is he really a villain because his intentions are actually good? But he sees it as like, again, like the bigger picture. Like, I'm doing this, I'm putting the blood on my hands, and he knows that from using the Death Note, there's consequences that come to it as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I think is interesting is a lot of times when people type villains as ENTJs, they type these villains that just want power for the sake of power. And ENTJ villains are typically not going to just want power for the sake of power, because ultimately the core of the ENTJ, the core self of the ENTJ is extroverted thinking and introverted feeling. So generally there's going to be some introverted feeling influence in all of their objectives, no matter how unhealthy they are. So this Light Yagami is a much better representation of an ENTJ villain because he thinks he's doing what's best for humanity. He thinks that he's helping people in the long run, in the big picture. And so he's not just wanting power for power's sake. People who have introverted feeling, people who have introverted intuition, like they want something more to it than just power. Their introverted feeling is going to be telling them, I need to have some moral, ethical cause that I'm doing this for that's more than just, I don't know, I have a lot of money or I have a lot of influence. Money and influence might be part of the goal, but you'll see something more nuanced than just, I want to be the king of the universe and that's it. What do you think, Denzel? I'm going to get your vote. Should we try showing the clip for Light Yagami, or should we just refrain from clips in case it cuts out again?
Man, yeah, it would kind of suck. So I just looked up a few things, and I really do believe that we can appeal things afterwards from what I'm looking up, especially since it's for educational purposes and everything. The only issue might be that it might take like 30 days for the stream, for people to watch like post stream. So if they're not watching right now, then they kind of probably like missed out. Yeah. But let's try to take a stab at it anyway.
Yeah. We got fairly far before that happened. So let's see if we can show a small clip of Light Yagami and see if it if it goes off when we're doing that here. Oh no, not him. It doesn't show the like where I am. So
Kid who asked for an
you can mute it until you get to the part 2.
Oh. All right, here's our clip with Yagami.
I have become justice. The only hope for mankind. Kill me? Is that really the right thing to do? Since Kid's appearance 6 years ago, wars have stopped, and global crime rates have been reduced by over 70%. But it's not enough. This world is still rotten, with too many rotten people. Somebody has to do this! And when I first got that notebook all those years ago, I knew I had to do it. No, I was the only one who could. I understood that killing people was a crime. There was no other way. The world had to be fixed. A purpose given to me. Only I could do it. Who else could have done it and come this far? Would they have kept going? The only one who can create a new world is me.
Yay, it worked.
Yeah. It's just so crazy. Like, of all personality types, I really relate most to INFJ and ENTJ. Because
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's all of that right there was God complex, and it's not something to be proud of necessarily, but it's just like a fact. I feel like when you look at EJs and that management fixation, like, well, if I don't do it, like, who will? And like, who else would have been? And it's just like, yeah. Oh, light.
I love that. I love it so much because not only do you see his introverted feeling in the sense I'm really helping the world, you just don't understand. You also see the numbers. Crime has gone down by 70%. Extroverted thinking types, they're gonna have those numbers down. They're gonna know. They're gonna be able to tell you, okay, this is the percentage. I've looked at the statistics, blah blah blah. Like they're gonna know that. And also, I had to be the one to do it. I knew, like, it's like he knew it was gonna be hard morally. He's gonna have to overcome some moral conscience pain, you know. But he's like, I'm doing this for the greater good, you know. And I think that, and I'm not an ENTJ, I'm an INTJ, but I think that that's something that TJs all resonate with. It's like, I'll be the bad guy so you don't have to be. And yeah, you guys are really nice and people think you're really great because you say all these nice things, but really we're the ones doing stuff. Like, okay, and I'm not saying that that's actually the truth. I'm not saying that like only TJs do stuff. I'm saying that that is a thought process, especially with TJs on a bad day. It's like, okay, guys, you think I'm bad? You think I'm the villain? You think I'm the one that's doing everything wrong? How about you try to solve this problem? Do you have a better way to bring crime rates down by 70%? No? Okay. Well, I've been dealing with it. You know, and that's kind of hyper responsibility to getting things done and being the bad guy and in order to achieve the overall objective is something that you'll find with ENTJs, particularly when they're cast in the villain spot.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I just had a thought. Dang, I think I lost it. Oh well. Yeah, I forgot it.
It's okay. That happens. Like being like on the spot and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not why it happens with you. It's why it happens with me. All right. So our next character is Tyrion Lannister. People type him as ENTP. And even when Denzel said ENTJ for him, I was like, wait, isn't he ENTP? And then I started watching clips of Game of Thrones. I'd watched Game of Thrones before, but I hadn't really been I had tried to analyze the characters, but I was watched them again, and I'm like, oh wow, I actually can see ENTJ with him. And here's one of the differences, because people do often wonder, am I ENTJ or ENTP? I'm not really sure. Tyrion is someone who everything he does is very intentional. I mean, yes, he likes to have fun. He likes to be with women and likes to drink and stuff like that. That's not necessarily like
tertiary, you know, just there.
Yeah. But like when he speaks, he's not jumping from one thing to another to another. He's not exploring massive numbers of possibilities all going in different directions. He is very eyes on the goal. And he is very has a very focused energy on his big strategy, on his big goal. And he also has this quiet insight into things that are going on behind the scenes and stuff that's going on under the surface. When he's talking to people, he stays on point and he asks very direct, revealing questions. ENTPs have a different type of energy. ENTPs, their interaction style is actually get things going. According to the psychologist Linda Behrens, they are more of a enthusiastic, playful energy. They are exploring multiple possibilities. They tend to often jump from one thing to another as they go, trying to like have their hands in all the pots to explore all these different things. And yes, like if you looked at our previous characters like Thomas Shelby or Lelouch Lamperouge, they were doing multiple things, but they were all had an overarching tie to one specific goal. Whereas ENTPs often are moving from one objective to another to another. And it's not that they can't have one specific goal, but they're happiest and they're most energized by brainstorming, by bringing up branching ideas that go off in all these different directions, branching theoretical ideas. Tyrion Lannister is happiest when he is being the strategic director. And that's the position he wants. In the beginning of Game of Thrones, he's not given a job that is mentally or intellectually stimulating to him. And so because he's not being used to his full potential and because people look down on him, he just gives into his extroverted sensing side, which is like, I'm going to drink, I'm going to sleep around, I'm going to just have as much sensual fun as I can have. And kind of also as throwing it in the face of the higher ups who don't respect him. But once he starts being taken a little bit more seriously and is given more power, you see that highly strategic side of him come out, and he wants that power and that leadership and that ability to advise, to guide, and to move all these different pieces in pursuit of one big goal. Denzel, what are your thoughts, since this was your suggested ENTJ? What are your thoughts on this character?
Yeah, I think that you explained that so beautifully. Again, like it's kind of like the L thing from Death Note, where I said like, yeah, it's very easy, like look at him real quickly and oh yeah, ENTP because whatever. But when you really pay attention, I really strongly see the functions TENISCFI, like in that order being shown. And you can even see how in comparison with Tywin Lannister. So again, like he's an INTJ character. So like if you look at him, then it's like, okay, you can kind of see like the comparison over there. How Tyrion really like moves. And again, like even like his dexterity with being able to speak fluently and everything like that. I think that's like also a part of being like that EJ type of like being an EJ in that way, like having a goal. And it reminded me of the thing that I forgot earlier, which was that with Light Yagami, like how he said, like, there was no other way, like there's no other way. I feel like that's very common for those who don't have like NE in their top 4 function stack. So especially ENJs with that, I think NE is like it's the tricks, no, it's the witch Senex.
Critical parent, which
parent.
Yeah,
exactly. And so it's like that like that's really like something that you can see a lot with these like ENJ type of characters. Like it's like I just see like this kind of way and I'm gonna make it work. And I feel like Tyrion, sometimes you can also see that with him too.
Yeah, absolutely. One way you can tell a difference between an ENP and an ENJ is ENJs are going to have one way. like exactly what you said, Denzel. He's like, there's no other way. ENPs are always going to be able to come up with more ways. I mean, generally speaking, they can multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply more and more and more and more possibilities. And I'm trying to think of an ENTP character to contrast with Tyrion to give you an example of like, yes, these are both incredible types, but they just have very different strengths. And I'm having a like Tony Stark, maybe from Iron Man, but I don't know enough about him really. I'm trying to think if there's another ENTP, but we'll get there later when we do a stream on ENTPs. I do have a clip about Tyrion Lannister, so again, we can cross our fingers and hope we don't get disconnected while we watch this clip. We'll see how it goes. All right, so here he is.
Let's do something I'm good at.
What are you good at?
I happen to be a great judge of character.
This sounds like a boring game.
It's not. Here's how it works. I make a statement about your past. If I'm right, you drink. If I'm wrong, I drink. And no lying.
I'll know if you're lying.
I don't want to play this game.
Fine. Bronn first.
Your father beat you. But my mother hit harder. You killed your first man before you were 12. It was a woman. She swung an axe at me.
You've been north of the wall.
What brought you up there?
Work.
And You once loved a woman many years ago, but it turned out badly, so you've never let yourself love again. Oh, wait, that's me.
All right, so before we go into the next scene, I'm glad that that didn't disconnect. But notice how he's like staring into his eyes and he's like, I just know these things about you. This is kind of the stereotypical, our stream got canceled. Well, we got to the end of that one and then it shut it off. So let me go ahead and take that down and see if it goes back to, yeah, it's it's still currently unavailable, so it's just you and me, Denzel, for the moment. I wonder if they're more okay with like the anime clips than they are with the real like people clips, because I noticed that's when it's coming up more. Although we had no issues at the beginning, so that probably we'll have to
we
figure out a way
definitely
around
look
that.
more into that. Yeah, because like I said, that was what I was worried about previously. But
yeah, because it makes it so much better if you can have the clip to demonstrate something. But someone says it's back on my YouTube stream. It's still saying unavailable, like on my phone.
same, it's saying that for me too still.
But maybe it's back for other people. I don't know. Yeah, apparently it disconnected right after I said the word disconnect. So we won't do more clips today. And maybe if we continue this series, because I think it's a great series, maybe we can figure out a way to do them some other way. I'm going to have to like go research things and figure it out. I'm just still waiting for us to come back. Yeah, we'll see. See what happens.
Back for anyone else? Okay, I think we are back.
Oh, there we yeah. All right, guys. I thank you so much for your patience. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to show small clips as long as it's for an educational purpose, but I don't think like the automated system can tell like how long the clips are for one thing and what the purpose is just yet. So we're gonna avoid using clips for the rest of the stream. We are probably just about done too, because I know we've used an hour and a half at this point. But I'm glad we were able to do the clips we did, because I do think that they were able to show some of the great things about these particular personality types and also help to clarify for people, wait, is this person maybe INTJ, ENTJ, ENTP, ENTJ? We will just put the slides up then. I don't remember. Oh, we had one female ENTJ, and I know there are more female ENTJs out there. I realized today, like very shortly before the actual stream, that we had all men, and I was like, oh crap, we should have more diverse characters. And so I thought of Mary Crawley from Downton Abbey. Very different character from the ones we've seen thus far, and I had so many funny clips of her, and so now I'm disappointed that I can't play it, but oh well. She is a very wealthy woman brought up in a in the turn of the century in England, where they have this big this enormous mansion and servants and things like that, and she has to appear very proper and all the have all the breeding of a elegant elegant woman, and it's frustrating for her. Not that ENTJs aren't elegant. She knows how to portray herself in an elegant way, but she's more ambitious than society will let her be during that time. She's more blunt than society would deem as proper. She is, if you watch her in the show, she almost never smiles. She makes very focused, direct eye contact. She's very straightforward, and she's always trying to she's always frustrated with the limits that are placed on her within her role in this family in her society. And later on in the series, she tries to go into business in different ways. And I had clips to show that. But she kind of is a great picture of the ENTJ female and the struggles that ENTJ females face. Now, we aren't all living in this enormous, beautiful mansion in England at the turn of the century. It's different than that. But she's often misunderstood. People often think that she's mean. But if you watch the show, you do realize she actually has a heart. She actually cares for people. And sometimes people that others in a high society would not consider worth their while. Excuse me. She is very blunt and she seems very haughty and proud. But even though she can seem that way, she also has her own insecurities and things like that. And many ENTJ women struggle with feeling judged for how they are different from other women. Statistically speaking, there's a much higher percentage. I don't have the exact number. I want to say it's like 68% or something like that are feeling women versus thinking women. It might be more than that. And so society expects women to have feeling qualities, and thinking women are often frowned upon. They're often seen as they're often misunderstood. They're often pressured to be more soft, more expressive emotionally, to exemplify these qualities that are harder for them to access than for feeling women. And I think if you want to see an ENTJ female, this is a great show for you to see that. She's a really great character. Denzel she's the last one I have on my slides, but Denzel, do you want to mention a few other ENTJs that you think are great examples of the ENTJ fictional characters that you think are great examples of the type that other people could consider watching the movies or the TV shows to see them?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like every NI user has already seen, or if they haven't, they need to see the movie Inception. And I think that Cobb, the main character, the one that Leonardo DiCaprio plays, I think that he's an ENTJ character. And that movie depicts it so well. So I think, yeah, that's another, it's almost like, it's interesting because going into his subconscious and into his own dream and everything like that, like no spoilers or whatever, but even with what the whole movie is about, pretty much is about his FI inferior. It's there, but it's like hidden and protected and safe. And, not everybody's able to go there. And it's like, yeah, I'll allow people into my mind, my NI and all of this, but like the FI, stop going there. Which is funny because I think that the girl that he also brought on to not the architect. No, I think that she was the architect. I don't know, but the girl that he brought on to also help, I think that she was also an ENTJ. And so it was interesting to see that back and forth kind of thing going on over there. And I always like to mention Paul Briggs from Graceland. I really highly recommend that show. It's on Hulu. I think it's incredible. I think I often say it's my number one favorite show. And Paul Briggs is my number one favorite ENTJ character. So yeah, I think that he's a really good example. The show is about a house full of secret agents, and the types are very, very defined, in there. And the show it's 3 seasons, 13 episodes each season. You can, if you want, you can just watch season 1. But pretty much these secret agents, they all live in the same house, and they sometimes help each other with their different missions and stuff like that. And the ISTJ is placed to live under there, and he looks up to Paul, but then him and Paul kind of clash heads here and there, because they're both doing TE, but he's very by the book and this is that, whereas he's seeing how Paul is very big picture oriented and everything, and they can clash heads, but then he starts to see how Paul's way of going about things is actually incredibly effective, and he starts to admire that, whereas Paul also starts to see wow, actually I see the importance over here with how you are very detail oriented in the way that you move and boom, boom, boom. And then there's just a whole big other twist in that too. So yeah, and just some others that I'm trying not to put villains. Everybody knows Azula. Everybody knows probably like Angelica from Rugrats or something like that. But oh yeah, go ahead.
I think Lucy from Peanuts.
Oh,
She's like the OG girl boss.
Yeah,
Like in Christmas, in Charlie Brown's Christmas, he's like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And she says, "Real estate." Like she's thinking beyond like what's normal for a kid. And I know that people love to hate on Lucy, but I kind of like Lucy, and I think that she's not as awful as people think. Like in The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, she's the one that goes out in the middle of the night and helps Linus get back home and in bed. Like she is a caring character. She's just kind of a bully also. Like she's a mixture of both. Not the best example of a kind, thoughtful ENTJ, but I just wanted to throw that in there as a possibility.
Yeah, I think that John, also from Attack on Titan, Jean, John, he's also like a good example of an ENTJ. Especially watching his evolution throughout Attack on Titan, you see him and Eren, they're like butting heads, the TESE, SETE, like going at it every now and then, but then you see the development there and his FI like really coming in. And Karma from the show Assassination Classroom. Assassination Classroom has several ENTJs in that show. So there's Karma, the principal is definitely an ENTJ. And the principal's son is also an ENTJ. So there's that. If you watch My Hero Academia, I personally believe that maybe I shouldn't say him. Okay, he's not the best example, but I think that ENTJ makes the best sense for Bakugo. I think that he is like clearly like very like TESE like oriented in a way, like he can, and he's characterized as like being like a very impulsive and stuff like that. But then you see like he has a lot of like actual strategy there. A lot of times he figures things out pretty quickly. And he has like a way, like they even comment like, he kind of often looks like he's just like being rambunctious everything, but he really has a strategy every time that he goes in. Like he doesn't just really jump into things like without a plan. But I think that, it's anime, so they just kind of like portray him in that way. And Killua from Hunter x Hunter. He, to me, is definitely an ENTJ. I know that he appears a lot like STP, but as you watch more closely, I think that he's actually like an ENTJ. And his story is absolutely beautiful. Watching him and his reverse type ISFP Gon and their dynamic, I think that's like very interesting to be able to watch. Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, I think that he's an ENTJ. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Thank you. Yeah, you gave me some things I want to watch also. And I think one thing to think about with, even a character like Bakugo, I have to watch more because I was thinking ESTB for him, but I'll have to watch it again because it's been a while. But he's also like an 8 in the Enneagram. And so Enneagram type can play a part as well. Like, and he's so, an ENTJ who's also an 8 might look more impulsive and more blustery and more quick to like blow up and explode and get angry. And also he's an anime character and they're not necessarily the most realistic in terms of like their emotions. One thing I had to figure out with anime characters is that they're all, it's particularly in the shonen style of anime, is they're all going to have amazing physical prowess no matter what their personality types are. Like there's like typically speaking in the real world, people who have like incredible physical awareness of their environment are often people have extroverted sensing in their high stack, because extroverted sensing is just incredibly aware of and reactive to the environment. But in anime, you can have these like mystical INFJ wizards who are then like highly conscious of their environment and totally aware of everything that's happening around them. So I've kind of, when it comes to typing anime characters, had to be like, okay, particularly in the shonen style, they're all going to have SE. It's always going to look like it. Like Jujutsu Kaisen, I know someone mentioned that. Gojo Satoru, I think he's an ENTP, and I love him. Oh, I love him so much. But of course, he has amazing physical prowess too. So anyway, I know we talked a lot about anime, but there were some other shows here as well. If you were part of the stream, I want to say thank you so much for being part of this. It was great. We got some really good questions, and it was really fun to actually interact with you. Watch some of these shows if you haven't seen them yet. I mean, Denzel gave you this whole list at the end. I hope you were taking notes because some of those look really interesting. Watch the shows that we talked about here and then comment and let us know what you think. If you watched them and you had any thoughts about the characters, or maybe you have a different interpretation of their personality. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we will hopefully figure out a way to continue these series without getting disconnected and being the bad guys on YouTube.
Yes. Feel free
So
to comment if you guys have any like ideas. If somebody, ENTJs are watching this, I'm sure that you'd be able to find a way. This is a win or lose situation, guys. Help us win. Unless if y'all already felt like y'all have won because we've already done your stream first, and so now that's competition for you guys to be able to do the other streams because dang, but still be kind. Help us win. Look into your hearts and onto Google to help us find ways to still stream for the other types and show different clips and everything. But
we would love that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to be looking into that a lot over the coming week. We will try to figure out a way to continue this because it is a lot easier to understand the types of these characters when we can actually see them in action. So being able to stream the short clips is really helpful. Worst comes to worst, we can still try to talk about them without that, but I think that adds a whole other dimension that makes it a lot better. So I want to give you guys the opportunity, if you want to know more about personality type, check out my website at psychologyjunkie.com. I've also written several ebooks on personality type, one of which is Discovering You, Unlocking the Power of Personality Type, which has a lot of information about ENTJs, as well as the other 15 personality types. Denzel is an amazing personality profiler if you're not sure about your type, or if you know someone who's not sure about their type and you want to gift them with an amazing experience, reach out to him. Denzel, how can people reach you if they want your help clarifying their type?
Yeah, so if you go to denzelmensa.com, you'll be able to find my services over there. I do profiling sessions, so the sessions can be from an hour to 2 hours to different parts, and I go into detail of like what type you are and like why and everything. You get a recording of it, and all of that. And then if you want coaching to be able to like better understand your type, ask me any questions at all about anything. I'm very happy to also help you with that to become a better version of your type, etc. So that's also cool. I do relationship coaching as well. And I, like I said, have a YouTube channel, so you guys can definitely check me out over there. If you search Denzel Mensa, then you should be able to find me there. And Susan, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Thank you, Denzel, and thank you everyone who was here. Kibo, Beautiful Faith, George, and I know there were others that.
Beautiful Faith is Jamila, if you're not aware.
Oh, I know it is. I just didn't know if she wanted it. I didn't know if she wanted it like under the radar.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't want, but thank you so much for being here. I guess if you say it, then it's okay if people know. But I wasn't sure. So thank you again. And next week, if all goes as planned, hopefully we can talk about ENFJ characters if Denzel's up for that. If not, maybe we'll go to ENTJ.
I was thinking INTJ, but that's
yeah, I wanted to have like a logical like order, either INTJ, ENTP, or ENFJ. So
yeah, in
it's
my
gonna
head,
be a lot of fun.
The extrovert, introverted ones back to back. That way is like all the people who watch today, like, all right, so then who's actually an INTJ? See
Absolutely.
That. Yeah,
that makes sense. So yeah, next week let's go to the INTJs. So be here. Hopefully, between now and then, we will find a way to stream the clips without getting disconnected from YouTube. But it was wonderful to be here with you guys. Thank you, Denzel, for taking the time to be here as well. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.